picture this, right? You've got your average summer camp, ones with like lanyard making and maybe some kind of awkward camp dances,
Yeah.
But now what if you took that energy, kids running around, all that, and added in a focus on their spiritual well-being?
It's interesting you say that because...
It sounds a little different, right?
It is.
And not unusual mix.
That's exactly what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah.
The whole,
it's like sprints and scripture all rolled into one.
Right.
Pretty interesting, huh?
So the really cool thing here is that we actually have a super detailed look at this. We're talking an unclassified United States Army operation order.
An actual official military document for a summer camp.
Specifically, OPORD 25059. Now, for those who are familiar with military operations, an OPORD, that's a standard format for outlining, objectives, tasks, responsibilities, the whole 9 yards.
Really lays it all out, huh?
Yeah. So the fact that we have this incredibly detailed document for a summer camp really shows you how important this is to the command at Fort Huachuca.
Right. Like they're taking this seriously.
Oh, yeah. They're not messing around.
So this OPORD, this is all about an upcoming event at Fort Huachuca called Get This Faith and Fitness Summer Camp.
Pretty catchy title.
And I gotta say, whether you are, part of the Fort Huachuca community yourself, or maybe you're just curious about, how you can tie physical activity and personal growth together.
Right.
Or even if you just want to peek behind the curtain and see how the military actually puts something like this together.
Like a ground up.
Yeah, this deep dive is going to be pretty eye-opening.
We're going to be exploring the who, what, when, where, and maybe most importantly, the thinking behind this whole thing.
The why.
Exactly.
So let's start right at the beginning, just like the OPORD does. This Faith and Fitness Camp, it's scheduled to run for 4 days.
Okay.
Tuesday, May 27th to Friday, May 30th, 2025.
So mark your calendars.
Yeah, if you've got kids in that age range, around Fort Huachuca, those are the dates.
Got it.
And each day, the activities are going to run from 0800 to 1200.
So a good chunk of the morning.
Solid half day. Yeah. Pretty dedicated time commitment there.
It is. And the location's really specific too. Okay. General Myer Elementary School, right there on Fort Huachuca in Arizona.
So that tells you right away, this is for families living on or near the base.
Yeah, children of service members, DoD civilians.
Right. It says here, target audience is clearly defined as children aged 6 to 12.
6 to 12.
Or dependents of those service members and DoD civilians in the local area.
So really targeted effort to support the families within the Fort Huachuca community.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the activities themselves, well, it's kind of right there in the name.
Faith and fitness.
They're going to introduce these kids to track and field events. Running, jumping, throwing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, classic track and field stuff.
And here's the interesting part. They're doing it with a focus on nurturing their spiritual growth as well.
That's the twist. That's what makes this unique.
I'm really curious how they're going to blend those two together.
Me too.
Yeah.
How do you combine sprints and, spiritual development?
Right. What does that even look like in practice?
Yeah, good question.
The Fort Huachuca RSO will host Faith and Fitness from Tuesday, 27 May 2025 to Friday, 30 May 2025 at General Myer Elementary School. This event is available to service members and DoD civilians' children in the local area. Faith and Fitness will teach children ages 6-12 track and field events while growing in spiritual fitness.
So it's pretty straightforward. It's a clear statement of what they're aiming to achieve.
No ambiguity there.
Nope, not at all.
But what really caught my eye was the commander's intent. This is where they really get into the why.
The heart of the matter.
Exactly. And it's stated very simply. Grow spiritual fitness among children in the Fort Huachuca community.
Interesting.
Right. Now, the term spiritual fitness, that's kind of loaded, isn't it?
It is. It makes you think, what does that actually look like? Especially for kids.
Right.
Are we talking about specific religious teachings? Or is it more about values, character development, that sort of thing?
Maybe just like a general sense of well-being.
Could be.
That they're trying to foster through this combination of activity and reflection.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they approach it.
Me too.
So to actually make this happen, the upper board lays out some key tasks. There's the identification of personnel and resources required to accomplish faith in fitness, which basically means getting all the people and equipment lined up.
Makes sense. You got to have the right stuff.
Oh yeah, logistics are key. And then there's execute General Myer Elementary cleanup and inspection to standard.
Okay, so they're not just going to leave it a mess afterwards.
Not at all. That's a big part of military operations. Being good stewards of resources, leaving things better than you found them.
Right, attention to detail.
Exactly.
So that kind of meticulousness, it really speaks to the importance the command places on this initiative, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not just about running a camp. It's about, showing care and responsibility towards the families and the facilities on the installation.
Showing that you value them.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty, the planning and prep.
Okay.
Setting this thing up isn't like a last-minute scramble. The OPRD says setup takes place each day.
Each day.
From May 27th to the 30th, between 0630 and 0800.
Wow, so they're putting in work every morning.
Yeah, suggests a pretty significant amount of effort to get everything ready before the kids even show up.
That's dedication.
And then there are these key leader trainings.
Interesting. What are those about?
Yeah, these are crucial, making sure everyone involved is on the same page. There are 2 of them scheduled.
Okay.
One on April 24th and another on May 13th.
Got it.
And it's really specific who has to be there. Chaplains, religious affairs specialists, and volunteers.
So we're talking about folks who are focused on spiritual guidance and support.
Right, and this really highlights the central role of the Religious Support Office.
The RSO.
Yeah, they're the ones who are primarily responsible for religious and spiritual well-being on the installation.
Makes sense.
And get this, the dress code for these trainings is appropriate athletic clothing.
No stuffy uniforms here.
Sounds like they're getting hands-on.
Yeah, definitely signaling an active approach to the camp itself.
No, it's not just about, setting up for the day. There's also a plan for what happens after each day and at the very end.
Okay, so what's the wrap-up look like?
Well, on May 30th, all the folks who are running the camp chaplains, religious affairs specialists, and volunteers, they're going to coordinate returning the equipment.
Right, could put everything back.
Yeah, and they're also going to do a police call of General Myer Elementary.
A police call.
Yeah. For those who don't know, that's basically a thorough cleanup, making sure the area is spotless. No trash, nothing left behind.
I see. So it's like a final sweep to ensure everything's in tip-top shape.
Yeah, that attention to detail, it really speaks to how structured military operations are.
Definitely. It's about accountability, leaving things better than you found them,
Right, taking pride in your work and the environment.
Exactly. And it ensures a safe and clean space for everyone.
All right, so now who's actually in charge of making all this happen?
Yeah, who's calling the shots?
The OPRD clearly says the Religious Support Office, the RSO, is the Office of Primary Responsibility.
The OPR.
Yep, for the entire event. And they even named their point person, chaplain, Captain Harold Morris, and they provided his contact info, phone, and email.
So anyone in the community who has questions or wants to get involved knows exactly who to reach out to?
Exactly. They're being very transparent about who's leading this.
Now, it's not just the RSO doing all the heavy lifting.
Right.
The Public Affairs Office, the PAO, also has some important tasks.
The PAO, they handle all the communication. Right?
Exactly. They manage outreach for the installation. And for this camp, they're tasked with creating and running a public service announcement.
A PSA.
Yeah, about faith and fitness. It'll run on the Commander's Access channel.
Which is like the main TV channel on base.
Yep, that's how they'll get the word out to all the families on post.
Gotcha. So the PAO is going to be running that PSA for 2 weeks before the event and then during the entire week of the camp.
Wow, so a solid 3 weeks of publicity.
Communication is key, right?
Oh, absolutely. You got to make sure people know what's going on.
Especially for an event like this.
Absolutely. And the PAO also has to coordinate any potential media releases about the camp with the RSO by May 1st, 2025.
Okay, so maybe they're thinking about getting the word out even beyond just the people on the base.
Yeah, maybe sharing this unique initiative with the wider local community.
Interesting. Now, beyond just the RSO and the PAO,
We got other players involved.
right, the ALPARE details how other units on Fort Huachuca are going to support this thing.
Okay, so who else is pitching in?
Specifically, USAI COE.
That's the United States Army Intelligence Center of Excellence, right?
Yeah, and then NETCOM, the Network Enterprise Technology Command.
Okay.
And then the 2nd Battalion 13th Aviation Regiment. They're all tasked with providing their chaplains and religious affairs specialists.
So they're lending their expertise to help run the camp.
Exactly. It's a real team effort.
It really is.
Raw.
Leveraging resources and personnel from all different parts of Fort Huachuca.
It takes a village.
It does. It does. And it's not just about providing manpower. These units are also responsible for publicizing the event to families within their organizations.
Right. So they're getting the word out internally as well.
Exactly. And they're actively encouraging attendance. It's like a grassroots effort to get the kids involved.
Spreading the word from all angles.
Absolutely.
Now, there's this really specific instruction for organizations on post that have marquees.
Like those electronic message boards?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
They're directed to advertise faith and fitness with very specific text.
Interesting. So they're not just leaving it up to each organization to come up with their own message.
No, it's very controlled.
Wow, very organized.
It's a coordinated information campaign.
Yeah, it really is. And they're told to include the RSO's phone number,
Which is,
520-533-4748.
got it.
That way, families can easily reach out for more information.
Right. And this directive is for, between May 1st and May 27th, 2025.
So they're making sure the information's out there consistently.
Absolutely. And just to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, the OPOR-D has a general instruction for all USAG-FH directorates.
USAFH, that's the United States Army Garrison Fort Huachuca, right?
Yep. And all the support offices, military units, and tenant units, everyone has to share the event information.
Wow, so they're really blanketing the installation with this.
Yeah, the goal is clearly to reach every single family who might be eligible.
Makes sense. No one gets left out.
All right, so let's talk about the logistics.
The practical stuff. Yeah, how they're going to actually make this thing work. The opera says the RSO is responsible for providing some essential items.
Like what?
Tables, refreshments.
Got to keep those kids hydrated and energized.
Utensils, trash cans, the basics.
Right, the infrastructure for a smooth event.
Exactly. And then, this is important, the RSO has to do a risk assessment.
Okay, so thinking about safety.
Always a top priority for the Army.
Of course.
They got to identify any potential hazards and figure out how to mitigate them.
Standard procedure.
Yeah, making sure everything is as safe as possible for the kids.
That's really reassuring to hear.
Absolutely. Now, on the communication side, all the organizations that are involved, they have to acknowledge receipt of the order.
So they can't just ignore it?
Nope. Got to make sure everyone's on the same page. They can either email the Fort Huachuca Installation Operations Center, the IOC,
Okay.
or call them directly.
Just to confirm they got the message and they understand their responsibilities.
Right. It's all about accountability.
And for folks in the community who just want general info about Fort Huachuca, the OPOR-D gives the number for the Fort Huachuca Information Hotline.
Yeah, that's a good resource.
And they also provide the direct contact info for the IOC, the Installation Operations Center.
So people know exactly where to go if they need something.
And then lastly, the OPOR-D includes a link to the interactive customer evaluation system.
An ICE system.
Yep.
What's that?
It's basically a way for parents and participants to give feedback on the program.
Interesting. So they're actually soliciting feedback from the community.
Yeah, they want to know what worked well, what could be improved.
So they can make it even better next time.
Exactly. It shows they're committed to continuous improvement.
Really taking it seriously.
Absolutely. They want to make sure this is a valuable experience for everyone involved.
So taking a step back, this deep dive into OPORD 25059, it's given us a really fascinating look at this upcoming faith and fitness camp at Fort Huachuca.
I agree. It's been really eye-opening.
What's clear is that this is not some hastily thrown together event. It's meticulously planned.
Meticulous.
From the daily setup and the training for volunteers all the way to, how they're going to clean up afterwards.
Right. They've thought of everything.
And it's all laid out in this highly detailed document.
It really highlights the level of organization and dedication within the military.
Absolutely. And it also underscores the interconnectedness of the Fort Huachuca community.
Yeah, it takes a village, as you said.
How everyone's coming together to support these families.
And it really makes you think about the potential benefits of integrating physical activity with this focus on spiritual well-being, especially for kids.
Right. It's a unique approach.
What do you think, listeners?
What are your thoughts?
What could the benefits be for the children who participate in this?
Or even think about this, the incredible level of planning we've seen in this OPR.
It's impressive.
What does that tell you about the values within military communities?
They clearly value organization, preparation, and taking care of their own.
It's about supporting their families in a really holistic way.
Absolutely. Taking care of not just the service members themselves, but their children as well.
Right. The whole family.
Addressing their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs.
It's pretty remarkable.
It is.
Now, if you're interested in learning more about these kinds of programs, maybe see if something similar exists in your community, you could always look up the Fort Huachuca Religious Support Office online.
Yeah, they might have more information about their programs and initiatives.
You could also check if other military installations have something similar.
It's worth exploring.
Definitely. And on that note, that's our deep dive for today.
Until next time.
Keep those questions coming.
And keep exploring.